The stars looked different from space. Kim Tae pressed his hand against the cold viewport of the merchant ship Stellar Wind. His dark eyes reflected the distant pinpoints of light. 3 months since he had left Earth, Deathworld 7, as the aliens called it, and he still wasn't used to the emptiness. "Human, you are needed in Cargo Bay 3, squawked a voice over the intercom. The ship's first mate, Krill, never used Tae's name. Just human, like his species was all that mattered. Tae pushed away from the viewport. At 35 years old, his body was a map of scars, some from his military career, others from his childhood in the tough streets of Busan. His black hair was cut short, military style. Old habits died hard. "On my way," he replied, his voice steady and low. The Stellar Wind was an ugly ship, a boxy transport vessel owned by the Peri, a bird-like species with blue feathers and sharp eyes. They hired Tae because humans were strong and tough, good for security and heavy lifting, and cheap. The metal floor clanged under his boots as he walked. Other crew members, a mix of 6 different alien species, moved aside as he passed, not from respect, from fear. Humans had a reputation. Tae entered the cargo bay and found Krill supervising the stacking of supply crates. The Peri's feathers ruffled with annoyance. "Finally," Krill said, "move these containers to Section 5, and be careful. They contain Jovian crystals." Tae nodded and got to work. The crates were heavy, but Earth's gravity was stronger than standard. What aliens found difficult, Tae handled with ease. As he worked, his mind drifted back to his last mission on Earth. The raid was supposed to be simple. His Special Forces team was to eliminate a terrorist cell hiding in a village near the DMZ. But when they arrived, Tae had discovered the intelligence was wrong. There were no terrorists, only families. His commander had ordered them to proceed. Anyway, something about sending a message, Tae had refused. When his commander raised his weapon toward a child, Tae had stopped him. Permanently. The military couldn't execute their decorated soldier, but they made sure his life was over anyway. Dishonorable discharge, no pension, no future on Earth. So, here he was, hauling boxes for aliens who thought humans were barely more than clever animals. "Ship-wide announcement," came the captain's voice through the speakers. "We are making an emergency landing at Nexus 9 for repairs. All crew prepare for docking procedures." Tae had heard of Nexus 9, a trading post at the edge of Confederation space. "Rough place. Human," Krill said. "You will join the supply team groundside. We need protection from local trouble." Nexus 9 was a massive space station built into an asteroid. From the docking bay, Tae could see that it was divided into levels, the higher, cleaner sections for the wealthy and the lower levels for everyone else. Tae followed Krill and 2 other crew members into the station. The air smelled of strange spices, machine oil, and too many species living in close quarters. "We need these parts." Krill handed Tae a list. "Stay with Moba while I arrange our fuel purchase." Moba was a short, green-skinned engineer who barely reached Tae's chest. They walked together through crowded market streets, aliens of all shapes and sizes haggling over goods from across the galaxy. Tae noticed that he wasn't the only human. Here and there, Earth natives moved through the crowd. Most looked like workers or hired muscle. Humans were still rare enough in space to draw curious glances. As Moba negotiated for engine parts, Tae heard a commotion from a nearby alley. A woman's voice, human, arguing in Korean. "I paid for safe passage. Give me back my specimens." Tae moved toward the sound, peering into the dim alley. A human woman with short black hair stood facing 3 bulky aliens with gray, leathery skin. They looked like the enforcers Tae had seen on other stations. "Dalra says your plants are now his property," one of the aliens said in broken common language. "He offers fair price." "Those plants are my research," the woman replied. "They can help fight the bacterial outbreak in this sector." The alien laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "Then Dalra will make much profit." Tae stepped into the alley. "Is there a problem here?" The aliens turned. The leader sized up Tae, noting, His stance, the scars, the calm eyes of someone familiar with violence. "Not your business, human," the alien said. "I'm making it my business," Tay replied. He switched to Korean. "Are you okay, miss?" "Hansu," the woman said. "These thugs work for Dal Ra, the station's biggest merchant. They took my plant specimens." The lead alien stepped forward, towering over Tay by at least a foot. "Leave now. Humans not welcome in Dal Ra's business." Tay didn't move. Years of combat training had taught him to read opponents. These three were strong but slow, used to intimidating through size rather than skill. "Last chance," Tay said quietly. "Return her property." The alien swung first, a heavy blow aimed at Tay's head. But Earthborn reflexes were faster. Tay ducked, under the punch, and drove his fist into the alien's midsection, finding a soft spot between armor plates. The alien doubled over, gasping. His companions rushed forward together. Tay moved with the fluid precision of his military training. A kick to one's knee produced a sickening crack. An elbow strike to the other's throat sent him staggering back. In moments, all three were on the ground, groaning. Around them, a small crowd had gathered, various species watching with surprise as a single human defeated 3 crawl enforcers. Tay quickly retrieved a container that had fallen during the fight. Inside were glowing blue plants with delicate leaves. "Your specimens," he said, handing them to Sue. She took the container, eyes wide. "Thank you, but you've just made an enemy of Dal Ra. That's not good for either of us." Before Tay could respond, his communicator beeped. It was Moba, sounding panicked. "Human, where are you? The ship. It's leaving." Tay and Sue ran to the viewport just in time to see the stellar wind disconnect from the docking bay. The ship's engines flared blue as it accelerated away from the station. "They left without you?" Sue asked. Tay's jaw tightened. "Looks that way. Krill probably decided I was more trouble than I'm worth." "Then we're both stranded," Sue said. "I was supposed to catch a research vessel next week, but after what just happened..." She glanced at the bruised aliens getting to their feet at the end of the alley. "Dal Ra won't let me leave now." Tay looked at the human botanist, then at the departing ship, then at the crowded, dangerous station around them. He'd survived Earth's war zones and the coldness of space. "Then we find another way off the station," he said. "Together." Sue studied him for a moment, then nodded. "I think we'd better move quickly. Those weren't Dal Ra's only men." As they hurried away from the docking area, Tay couldn't help feeling that his life as an exile had just become much more complicated. And somewhere above them, in the high levels of Nexus 9, security cameras tracked their movement, feeding images to screens where cold eyes watched with growing interest. 3 days on Nexus 9 had taught Tay and Sue many things. First, that the station was even more dangerous than it looked. Second, that Dal Ra's reach extended to every level. And third, that 2 stranded humans without credits wouldn't last long. They found shelter in Level 7, a maze of narrow corridors and small rooms filled with others who had nowhere else to go. Their room was barely big enough for 2 sleeping mats, with pipes running across the ceiling that dripped water every few hours. "The plants need more light," Sue said, checking her specimens. The blue plants were starting to droop, their glow fading. "And we need more food." Tay nodded. Their emergency rations wouldn't last another day. He had sold his multi-tool yesterday for a handful of credits, but prices on the station were high for outsiders. "I might have a solution," he said. "I heard some workers talking about fighting matches in Level 3. They pay winners." Sue looked up sharply. "Fighting? You mean like gladiator matches?" "Something like that. They call it the hunting grounds." Sue shook her head. "That's too dangerous, these aliens. Some of them are twice your size with natural armor." Tay smiled slightly. It was the first time Sue had seen him look anything close to happy. "Size isn't everything. Earth gravity is 1.3 times galactic standard. Our muscles and bones are denser, and I was trained to fight opponents bigger than me." "This isn't a street fight in Seoul," Sue argued. "These are different species with different physiologies. Do you have a better idea?" Tay asked. Sue sighed and turned back to her plants. "Just don't get killed." My research needs protection until I can find a way to contact my colleagues. The hunting grounds smelled of sweat from a dozen different species and the metallic tang of various bodily fluids. The fighting arena was a circular pit 30 feet across, surrounded by tiered seating filled with shouting spectators. Tay approached the registration area, where a 6-armed alien covered in purple scales was taking names. Entry fee is 50 credits, the alien said without looking up. I don't have 50 credits, Tay replied. But I'll fight anyway. The alien finally raised its head, compound eyes blinking. No credits, no fight. What if someone sponsors me? A voice said from behind. Tay turned to see an older human man with gray hair and deep wrinkles around his eyes. Despite his age, he stood straight, with the alertness of someone used to watching his surroundings. Jin Ho, the man said, extending his hand in the human way. I've been on this station 20 years, long enough to know a fighter when I see one. The purple alien hissed in annoyance. Ho, you bring another stray human? Put him against Krex, Ho said, placing credits on the counter. Double return if he wins. The alien's mouth parts clicked in what might have been laughter. Krex will break this one quickly. After Ho paid, he led Tay to a preparation area. Krex is a Viridian. Strong upper body, weak knees. He likes to grapple. And crush. Don't let him get his arms around you. Why are you helping me? Tay asked. Ho's eyes were steady. Humans should stick together out here. Besides, I'm curious to see what you can do. Military training, yes? Tay nodded slightly. Special forces. Ho smiled. Then Krex is in for a surprise. When Tay entered the arena, the crowd's noise rose. Some spectators laughed and pointed at the human. Others made betting gestures. Across the pit stood Krex, 7 feet of green-gray muscle with 4 arms and a head that seemed to sit directly on massive shoulders. His mouth opened to reveal rows of sharp teeth. Begin! Shouted the announcer. Krex charged immediately, all 4, arms outstretched to grab. He was fast for his size, but Tay was faster. The human sidestepped, analyzing his opponent's movement patterns. Krex roared in frustration and swung a massive fist. Tay ducked under it and struck the alien's knee, just as Ho had suggested. Krex howled and stumbled. The crowd grew quieter, watching with new interest. Tay kept moving, never staying in one place long enough for Krex to grab him. He struck repeatedly at the alien's joints, each blow precisely targeted. Stand still, human, Krex bellowed. But Tay continued his strategy. On Earth, he had fought bigger, stronger men and learned that patience was as important as strength. Let the opponent tire. Find the weakness. Strike when the moment is right. Finally, Krex made a mistake. Overextending on a lunge, he left himself, off balance. Tay stepped inside his reach, driving an elbow into a sensitive spot where jaw met neck. Then another strike to the alien's temple. Krex swayed, eyes unfocused. One more precisely placed hit, and the massive alien crashed to the floor. The arena fell silent, then erupted in shocked cheers and angry shouts as betting money changed hands. Winner. Earth human, the announcer declared, sounding surprised. As Tay left the pit, he saw Ho collecting his winnings with a satisfied smile. That was impressive, Ho said as they walked back to level 7. Most newcomers don't last 2 minutes against Krex. Tay counted the credits he'd earned. Enough for food for a week, maybe more if they were careful. Tell me about Dal Ra, Tay said. How dangerous is... Ho's expression darkened. Very. He controls most trade through this sector, has his fingers in everything from legal shipping to slave trading, and he's particularly interested in rare biological specimens. Like Sue's plants? Ho nodded. Especially if they have medical applications. In this part of space, medicine is worth more than gold. When they reached the small room, Sue was waiting. Her face brightened when she saw the credits. You won, she said, relief in her voice. Our friend here did more than win, Ho said. He embarrassed one of the arena champions. Word will spread. Sue looked worried. Is that good or bad? Both, Ho replied. Bad because Dal Ra will definitely hear about another human on the station. Good because we might find allies who respect strength. Sue turned to her plants, which now sat under a small light she had rigged from scavenged parts. I've been thinking. My research, it might be more valuable than I realized. The bacterial outbreak affecting this sector, my plants produce compounds that could neutralize it. Which is exactly why Dalra wants them, Ho said grimly. How long until your research vessel arrives? Tay asked. Sue shook her head. That's the problem. I tried sending a message today. The ship was attacked near the Krell Nebula. It won't be coming. Silence filled the small room. Finally, Ho spoke. There are other ways off the station, expensive ways. If your fighter friend here continues winning in the arena? Tay nodded slowly, understanding. How many fights? He asked. Ho calculated, in his head. To earn enough for passage for both of you? At least 10, against increasingly difficult opponents. Then I'll fight 10 times, Tay said simply. Later that night, as Sue slept, Tay stood watch by the door. In the dim light, Ho studied the younger man. There's something different about you, Ho said quietly. Even for a human. Tay said nothing. I've seen other military men, Ho continued. None move quite like you. What really happened on Earth? Tay's eyes remained on the door. I made a choice, the kind you can't take back. Ho nodded as if this confirmed something. You should know, humans have a reputation out here. Most species fear what they don't understand. And they don't understand how creatures from a Deathworld think. Deathworld. That's what they call Earth. Too dangerous for most species to even visit. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, aggressive predators, natural disasters. Ho smiled slightly. Makes those of us who survived it rather special. Before Tay could respond, a distant alarm sounded, then another closer. Ho was on his feet instantly. That's not good. Station security sweeps. They're looking for someone. Us? Sue asked, now awake. Probably. Ho moved to the door. Gather your things. We need to move. Where? Tay asked. Ho's expression was grim. The only place they won't look for humans, the lower levels, where they keep the real monsters. The lower levels of Nexus 9 were cold and dark. Water dripped from pipes overhead and the air smelled of mold and something else. Something wild. Tay, Sue, and Ho moved quietly through narrow maintenance tunnels. Twice they had to hide as security. Patrols passed nearby, their heavy boots echoing on metal floors. In here, Ho whispered, pointing to a small door half hidden behind pipes. Inside was a room filled with old machinery. Ho sealed the door and switched on a small light. The space was cramped but dry, with crates that could serve as chairs and beds. We should be safe here for now, Ho said. I used this place years ago when I first came to the station. Sue set down her container of plants. In the dim light, their blue glow seemed brighter. Why are they hunting us so hard? She asked. Just for these plants? Ho's face was serious in the blue glow. It's time I told you the truth. About Earth. About humans. About why the galaxy fears us. Tay and Sue exchanged glances. Earth isn't just any planet, Ho continued. In galactic terms, it's classified as a Class 7 death world. The gravity would crush most species. The temperature range would kill them. The oxygen levels would make them dizzy. And the predators... He shook his head. Most sentient species evolved on peaceful worlds. They never had to outrun lions or fight bears. But what does that have to do with us? Sue asked. Everything, Ho replied. Humans are the only sentient species to evolve on a Class 7 world. We're stronger, faster, and more durable than most aliens. Our bones break less easily. Our skin heals quickly. We can survive temperature extremes that would kill others. We can eat foods that would poison most species. Tay thought about the aliens he had fought in the arena, how they tired more quickly than he did. The Confederation didn't quarantine Earth because we're primitive, Ho continued. They did it because they're scared of us, of what we might become if we joined galactic society. That's why they want my plants, Sue said suddenly. Not just for medicine. My research shows that compounds in these plants can strengthen immune systems, but only for certain species with DNA structures similar to ours. Ho nodded. A treatment that works only for humans would give us an advantage. The Confederation can't allow that. But you said we're already stronger, Tay pointed out. Physically, yes, Ho agreed. But we're vulnerable to their diseases, their weapons. If we had resistance to those too, he left the thought unfinished. A loud bang from outside made them all freeze. Then came the sound of heavy objects being moved. They're searching the maintenance areas, Ho whispered. We need to go deeper. Deeper? Sue asked. How much deeper? Can we go? Level 10, Ho said grimly. The research labs. They moved through service shafts so narrow they had to crawl in single file. The temperature dropped further. Tay could see his breath in the dim emergency lighting. What's in these research labs? Sue asked as they paused at a junction. Animals, Ho said. Predators from across the galaxy. The Confederation studies them, tries to understand what makes them dangerous. And that's safer than security patrols? Tay asked. The animals are in cages, Ho replied. Usually. They continued downward. The station's background hum faded, replaced by an eerie silence broken only by distant mechanical sounds. Finally, they reached a heavy door marked Level 10 Authorized Personnel Only in several languages. Ho worked on the security panel while Tay kept watch. Sue checked her plants, which were starting to wilt in the cold. They need light and warmth, she said. They won't survive much longer down here. Got it, Ho said as the door slid open. They entered a long corridor with doors on either side. Through small windows, they could see into the rooms beyond. Each contained an environment designed to look like an alien world, some with red sand, others with thick jungle, still others with strange rock formations, and in each habitat was a creature. In one, a massive snake-like animal with glowing patterns on its scales. In another, something that looked like a cross between a wolf and a lizard. In a third, a creature made of what appeared to be living stone. Apex predators, Ho explained, from Deathworlds across the galaxy. Why collect them? Tay asked. To study them, to understand what makes them dangerous. And maybe, Ho paused, to use them as weapons. They found an empty observation room, with computer terminals and supply cabinets. Sue immediately set up her plant container near a heat vent. Will security come down here? She asked. Not if they can avoid it, Ho replied. Even the guards are afraid of this level. Tay explored the room, finding emergency rations and water containers in a cabinet. We can last a while here, he said. Ho sat at a terminal and began typing. Let me see what's happening on the station. Security camera feeds appeared on the screen, showing guards searching Level 7. Dalra's men were with them, breaking down doors and searching rooms. They're really determined, Sue observed. It's not just your plants anymore, Ho said, pointing to another screen where Ty's fight in the arena was playing. It's him too, a human who can fight like that. Both the Confederation and Dalra would pay a lot for such a warrior. Tay watched himself on the screen, moving with a speed and precision that made the alien Krex look slow and clumsy. He had never seen himself fight from the outside before. Is that really how we look to them? He asked. Yes, Ho said. Most species evolved past physical conflict thousands of years ago. They use technology for war now. But humans, we still remember how to fight with our bodies. Ho pulled up more files, scanning through them quickly. There's something else. Something big happening. What? Sue asked. A Confederation peacekeeping vessel is on its way to Nexus 9, due to arrive in 2 days. That's good, right? Sue said. Maybe they can help us get home. Ho shook his head. The Confederation isn't coming to help. They're coming to contain a situation? He looked at them both. Us. We're the situation. Tay studied the older man. How do you know so much about the Confederation? Ho was silent for a long moment. Then he rolled up his sleeve, revealing a series of numbers tattooed on his arm. Because I used to work for them. 20 years ago, they took me from Earth. Trained me, used me for missions too dangerous for their own people. You were a soldier? Tay asked. I was a weapon, Ho corrected. We all were. Humans taken from Earth, our physical abilities enhanced, our minds conditioned to follow orders. But you escaped, Sue said. Ho nodded. I've been hiding ever since. Changing identities, moving from station to station. He looked at Tay. When I saw you fight, I knew. You move like we did. Before Tay could respond, an alarm began to sound, different from the security alerts above. This one was deeper, more urgent. What's happening? Sue asked. Ho's fingers flew over the terminal. Someone's accessing the research lab controls. They're... Oh no. What? Tay demanded. They're opening the containment cells, Ho said, face pale. All of them. As if to confirm his words, they heard a distant roar, followed by another, then another, the sounds of predators suddenly free. Why would anyone do that? Sue asked, horrified. To flush us out, Ho said grimly, or to cover up something worse. On the security feed, they watched as massive alien creatures prowled the corridors of Level 10. One smashed a camera with a clawed limb. Another sprayed something that looked like acid on a wall. We need to move, Tay said, already gathering their supplies. Up, back to the higher levels. There are 20 floors between us and any ship that could get us off this station, Ho pointed out. And now there are deadly predators between us and those floors, Sue added, clutching her plant container. Tay checked the corridor through the small window in the door. Something large moved in the shadows. Something with too many legs. We fought monsters on Earth too, he said quietly. And we survived. We need weapons, Tay said, searching the observation room. He found a metal pipe that had broken off from the ceiling and tested its weight in his hand. Ho opened a locked cabinet with a code he somehow knew. Inside were stunners, small devices that could temporarily paralyze most species. These won't stop the bigger predators, Ho warned, handing one to Sue. But they might slow them down. Sue carefully packed her plants into a shoulder bag she had made from spare fabric. Which way do we go? Ho checked the security feeds again. Most cameras on Level 10 were now dark, but a few still worked. They showed creatures of various sizes roaming the corridors. Some fought each other. Others seemed to be exploring their new freedom. The main elevators are blocked, Ho said. But there's a maintenance ladder that runs through the core of the station. If we can reach it, we might be able to climb up to Level 5. From there, we could try to reach the docking bays. Tay nodded. How far to this ladder? 3 corridors. Over, through the main lab area. Sue looked pale but determined. Let's go. They moved carefully into the hallway. Emergency lights flashed red, casting strange shadows. The station's computer voice repeated a warning. Containment breach on Level 10. All personnel evacuate immediately. At the first junction, Tay held up his hand for them to stop. Ahead, something was moving in the shadows. Something big. Kilthnar. Serpent? Ho whispered. From the Rigel system. Hunts by body heat. The creature slithered into view. It was like a snake, but with armored plates along its back and 6 small limbs that helped it climb walls. Its head was flat and wide, with heat-sensing pits instead of eyes. It hasn't seen us yet, Ho said. Their sensors only work on warm-blooded prey. Just then, the serpent turned its head in their direction. Its mouth opened, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. I think it sees us just fine, Tay said. The serpent launched forward with shocking speed. Tay pushed Sue and Ho back around the corner and faced the creature alone, pipe raised. As the serpent lunged, Tay stepped to the side and brought the pipe down hard on its head. The metal bent from the impact. The serpent hissed in pain and coiled, to strike again. Tay looked for a weakness. The armored plates protected most of its body, but the underside looked softer. When it lunged again, he dropped to the floor and thrust the pipe upward into its throat. The serpent thrashed violently, then went still. Impressive, Ho said as they stepped over the dead creature. Most species would have frozen in fear. Earth has snakes too, Tay replied. Just smaller. They continued through the corridors, hearing sounds of other creatures in the distance. Twice they had to hide as large predators passed nearby, Once they saw two different species fighting, tearing each other apart with claws and teeth. The lab should be just ahead, Ho said as they reached a set of double doors. Inside was a large room filled with scientific equipment. Specimen tanks lined the walls, most now broken and empty. Computer screens showed data about the escaped creatures. Look at this, Sue said, examining one of the screens. They weren't just studying these animals. They were changing them, making them more aggressive, more deadly. Weapons research, Ho confirmed. The Confederation has been preparing for war for a long time. Against who? Tay asked. Ho looked at him. Anyone not like them, including humans if we ever become a threat. A crash from the far side of the lab made them turn. A creature that looked like a cross between a tiger and a scorpion had entered through another door. Its 6 legs ended in razor-sharp claws and a barbed tail curved over its back. Morvian hunting cat, Ho whispered. Extremely dangerous. Don't move. The creature sniffed the air, sensing them. It took a step forward, tail twitching. It's going to charge, Ho said, raising his stunner. These won't stop it. Tay stepped forward, putting himself between the creature and his companions. He had fought wild animals during survival training on Earth. The key was to show no fear. The hunting cat growled, showing fangs as long as Tay's fingers. It tensed to spring. Then something strange happened. The creature looked directly at Tay, at his stance, his eyes, the way he held himself ready for combat. And it hesitated. Tay took one step forward, then another. The creature backed up a step. What's happening? Sue whispered. I don't know, Ho replied. I've never seen a Morvian cat back down before. Tay continued his slow advance. The cat growled again but retreated further. Its tail lowered slightly. It's afraid, Sue realized. It's afraid of him. The standoff continued for several tense moments. Then the hunting cat turned and bounded away through the door it had entered. How did you do that? Ho asked, amazed. Before Tay could answer, the lab's main screen lit up with an incoming message. A face appeared, an alien with pale blue skin and large, unblinking eyes. Attention humans, the alien said. I am Commander Eliovar of the Confederation Peacekeeping Force. We have established contact with Nexus 9 and are aware of the containment breach. Surrender yourselves at docking, Bay 12, and you will not be harmed. Ho quickly shut off the screen. They know we're here, and they're already in orbit. Can we trust them? Sue asked. No, Ho said firmly. VAR is part of the same program that took me from Earth. If we surrender, we'll never see home again. A new alarm began to sound throughout the station. The computer voice changed its message. Attention all personnel. Confederation vessel docking in progress. Security protocols activated. We need to move now, Tay said. Where's the maintenance ladder? Ho pointed to a door at the back of the lab. Through there, then left. They hurried through the door and down another corridor. The maintenance access was behind a panel that Ho quickly removed. Inside was a narrow shaft with metal rungs extending up and down as far as they could see. It's at least 15 levels to the docking bays, Ho said. Can you make it? Sue nodded, securing her plant bag. Yes. They began to climb, the metal rungs cold under their hands. After several minutes of steady climbing, they reached level 9. Ho pushed open an access panel and they entered another corridor. We should check if this level is clear before we continue, he said. The corridor seemed empty, but there were signs of chaos. Broken equipment, doors torn from hinges, dark stains on the walls and floor. They moved carefully toward a security station, where working monitors showed footage from other parts of the station. On one screen, they saw Confederation troops in white armor moving through the upper levels, weapons ready. On another screen, they saw Dal Ra himself, a tall, thin alien with gray skin and 4 arms, talking with Commander Var. They couldn't hear the conversation, but it looked tense. Dal Ra is working with the Confederation, Ho said. I should have guessed. Something on a third screen caught Sue's attention. Look, she said, pointing. The camera showed a laboratory where a human in a white coat worked alongside alien scientists. That's another human. A collaborator, Ho said bitterly. Someone who works for them. Sue studied the screen more closely. No, I know him. That's Park Min. He's a biologist like me. He disappeared from an Earth research station 2 years ago. Everyone thought he died in an accident. On the screen, Min looked nervous. He kept glancing over his shoulder as he worked with samples in a containment unit. What are they working on? Tay asked. Ho zoomed in the camera. The container held vials of a glowing green liquid. Sue gasped. That looks like a viral vector for genetic modification, but the scale? They're producing it for mass deployment. A weapon, Ho said grimly. Targeted at specific genetic markers. Human genetic markers? Tay asked. Ho nodded slowly. The Confederation fears what humans might become. This could be their solution, a way to eliminate us without open warfare. Sue looked at her plant specimens, now glowing faintly in her bag. And my research could help protect us from it. That's why they want it so badly. A sound from down the corridor made them all turn. Multiple footsteps getting closer. Troops, Ho whispered. We need to hide, but as they turned to retreat, a different sound came from the other direction. A low, rumbling growl. They were trapped between Confederation soldiers and one of the escaped predators. The soldiers might not shoot us, Sue said hopefully. They will, Ho replied. We know too much now. Tay looked back and forth between the two approaching threats. Then he made his decision. I'll handle the beast, he said. You two find another way up. No, Sue grabbed Tay's arm. We stay together. Ho pointed to a small service door. Through there, it leads to the science labs. We might find Min. The growling grew louder as they slipped through the door just before the soldiers rounded the corner. They found themselves in a narrow service passage that ran behind the walls of the main laboratories. Through small maintenance windows, they could see scientists working, unaware of their presence. In the third lab, they spotted Min carefully handling vials of the green liquid. Ho found an access panel and quietly removed it. They entered the lab just as Min was alone, the alien scientists having moved to another room. Min spun around, nearly dropping the vial he held. His eyes widened in shock. You're humans, he whispered in Korean. How did you get here? Sue stepped forward. I'm Han Soo. We met at a conference in Seoul 2 years ago. Recognition dawned on Min's face. The botanist, working on medicinal plants. Sue nodded. These people are using you, Min. They're creating a weapon against humans. Min's shoulders slumped. I know. They told me it was a vaccine at first. By the time I realized what it really was, he looked around fearfully. They don't let humans leave. What exactly is this? Ho asked, pointing to the vials. A targeted pathogen, Min explained. It attaches to specific genetic markers found only in humans. It would make us sterile at first. Then in later generations, the modified genes would cause cellular breakdown. Extinction, Ho said grimly. Slow enough that we wouldn't realize until too late. Sue opened her bag, showing her glowing plants. My research might help counter it. That's why Dalra wanted my specimens. A loud alarm suddenly blared through the station. The computer voice announced, "Final warning, all personnel evacuate to upper levels. Decontamination protocol initiating in 15 minutes. What does that mean? Tay asked. Min paled. They're going to purge the lower levels with radiation, kill all the escaped specimens and anyone else down here. How do we get out? Sue asked urgently. Min moved to a terminal and pulled up a station map. Most routes to the upper levels are blocked or guarded, but there's a maintenance crew preparing a scout ship in Auxiliary Docking Bay 3. It's their emergency escape protocol. Can you get us there? Ho asked. Min nodded hesitantly. I think so. I have clearance for most areas. What about this? Sue pointed to the vials of pathogen. Min grabbed a small container from a nearby shelf. We take it as evidence, and this. He pulled a data crystal from the terminal. Research data, proof of what they planned. They moved quickly back to the service passage, following Min's directions. They had climbed up 2 more levels when they heard shouts behind them. Security found our exit point, Ho said. They're in the passages now. They reached level 5, where the auxiliary docking bays were located. Min swiped his access card at a door, and they emerged into a wide corridor. Ahead, they could see a small group of technicians loading equipment onto a scout ship. Just then, a voice called from behind them. "Stop right there." They turned to see Commander Var and 6 armed soldiers blocking their path. Var was taller than the images had shown, with cold eyes and a thin smile. The escaped specimens, the missing scientists, all the chaos, just to flush out 3 humans, Var said, stepping forward. "You've caused quite a lot of trouble." "We know what you're planning," Ho said. "The bioweapon, the extinction plan." Var's expression didn't change. "A necessary precaution. Your kind evolves too quickly, adapts too well. The simulation models show that humans would dominate galactic society within 5 generations if fully integrated. So you decided to eliminate us?" Sue asked. "Control your population? Guide your development for the good of all species," Var replied. He gestured to his soldiers. "Take them and the research materials." Tay moved forward, placing himself between Var and the others. "No." Var studied him with interest. "The fighter. Yes, we saw your arena matches. Impressive for an untrained specimen." "I am trained," Tay said simply. "Not like the ones we create," Var said. "Step aside, resist, and my soldiers will stun you, painfully." Tay didn't move. The soldiers raised their weapons. Something changed in Tay's stance, a subtle shift that made him seem suddenly more dangerous. His eyes hardened, his breathing slowed. It was the same look he had when facing the arena fighters, the same presence that had made the Morvian hunting cat retreat. The nearest soldier hesitated, weapon wavering. "What are you waiting for?" Var demanded. "Fire." The soldier fired, but Tay was already moving, faster than seemed possible. He dodged the stun blast and closed the distance in 2 long strides. Before the soldier could fire again, Tay had disarmed him and knocked him unconscious with precise strikes. The other soldiers fired in a confused barrage. Tay used the first soldier as a shield, then threw the unconscious body into 2 others. He moved like water, flowing between stun blasts, never where the weapons pointed. Sue, Ho, and Min watched in amazement as one human systematically disabled 6 armed soldiers. His movements were economical, precise, almost beautiful in their deadly efficiency. From a side passage, a massive creature suddenly appeared, a 4-legged predator with spines running down its back. It charged into the fight, but instead of attacking Tay, it went for the soldiers, sensing easier prey. In the chaos, Var backed away, pulling out a control device. "If I can't have you for study, no one will benefit from Earth's savages. This station will be destroyed." Ho spotted the danger. "He's activating the self-destruct." Sue reached into her bag, grabbed a plant root and threw it with surprising accuracy. The root, evolved to release spores when threatened, burst against Var's face. He coughed and staggered, dropping the device. Min rushed forward and picked it up. "It's locked in. 2-minute countdown." The ship. Ho pointed to the scout vessel where the technicians had fled, leaving the boarding ramp down. They ran for it, Tay covering their retreat as more security forces appeared. As they reached the ship, the predator that had attacked the soldiers turned toward them, sensing new targets, but when it saw Tay, saw the way he stood, unafraid, ready to fight, it stopped. Its nostrils flared, taking in his scent. Then, to everyone's surprise, it backed away, retreating down the corridor. "Even the beasts know," Ho said quietly. "They recognize a superior predator when they see one." They boarded the ship as the station's computer counted down the final minute before self-destruct. Min took the pilot's seat, his hands shaking as he activated the launch sequence. "I've never actually flown one of these," he admitted. "You have. Now, Ho said, strapping himself in. Get us out of here. The scout ship detached from the station just as the first explosions began. They accelerated away, watching through the viewport as Nexus 9 broke apart in a series of blinding flashes. In the silence that followed, Sue connected her data pad to the ship's communication array. I'm broadcasting everything. Min's research, data, proof of the weapon, evidence of the Confederation's plans. Every independent world in this sector will receive it. They'll hunt us, Ho warned. Let them try, Tay said, looking out at the stars. On the scanner, they could see other ships already responding to Sue's broadcast. Independent traders, representatives from non-Confederation worlds, even some Confederation vessels whose captains appeared shocked by the revelations. Min carefully stowed the container with the pathogen samples. With this evidence and Sue's research on immunity, we can protect our people. And warn Earth, Sue added. They need to know what's out here. Tay stood by the viewport, watching as their small ship moved farther from the debris field that had been Nexus 9. His reflection stared back at him. Just a man from a distant planet, yet somehow more than that, a symbol now of what humans could be. Where do we go? Min asked. There's a free trading post in the Altair system, Ho said. We can send a more detailed message to Earth from there. Sue joined Ty at the viewport. What do you think will happen, now? Tay thought about Earth, about the forests and mountains and oceans of his home, about a planet so dangerous that its children made even the galaxy's worst predators step aside. Now they know about us, he said simply. All of us. And they'll never look at humans the same way again. In the vastness of space, their small ship carried a message that would change the galaxy. From the Deathworld came not just beasts but warriors, and the stars themselves would never be the same.